Recently, I was invited to speak at a conference in LA. I noticed that on the speaker panel, before me and after me, there were some really interesting people that I knew pretty well, who I wanted to also hear them speak. Well, the right before I spoke, there were two economists that were being interviewed, guys that I know quite well, Jim Costello and Richard Green, Richard of USC. And Richard made an observation that made me question whether his interpretation of statistics was correct. Richard pointed to the fact that in about 2008, I might be off by a year, the German per capita GDP was 90% of the US per capita GDP. And that more recently, it had fallen to 60% of the US per capita GDP. And Richard concluded that this was a bullish sign for America, that America's economy is actually doing quite well, at least on a relative basis compared to the economic engine of Europe, Germany. I sat there listening to Richard, and I thought to myself, I don't really think the US is doing that well. There must be some other way to interpret this statistic. So I thought about immigration, because Germany was well ahead of the US in opening its borders to immigration. And I looked at the population change in that time from '08. The last time I could find a statistic was 2022, I think. And in that time, the German population grew by 2 million, from 82 million to 84 million. Then I looked at immigration, and it turned out that immigration into Germany, or immigrants who had become Germans over that same period of time, was about 21 million. So I thought to myself, 82 million in 2008, now 84 million in 2022, 19 million new immigrants, 21 million new immigrants, that means that the native German population shrunk by 2 million over that period of time and were replaced by 21 million immigrants. That explained very well to me how the per capita GDP fell so dramatically when measured against the US, and probably when measured in an absolute basis or measured against any other country, because probably they didn't do a great job of integrating those 21 million immigrants in Germany and making them productive citizens. And so, at least for this period of time, the productivity on a per capita basis shrunk dramatically due to immigration. Now, I think that's a very kind of important way to see this and think about how that might play out for America and for other countries as they deal with immigration. I'm not against immigration, as I've said before. My family, like most families, are immigrants, and rather recent immigrants. But I think unless we can figure out ways to integrate our immigrant population and make them be productive citizens, that would, we and Germany will face difficult times, and other countries too.